Shout out to y'all in the chat. We appreciate you guys here every Monday night. Did anybody see Trump and the president of Ukraine video? Right? Okay, let's watch a little clip of it. What Trump, Vance, and the Ukraine president had to say.
We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. The country is in big trouble.
Can I answer?
No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone. We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and you met up ready, but they had to use our military equipment. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
I said it a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're.
Y'all might not like my take on this. They didn't let him talk. Like, I don't think they let the president of Ukraine talk. Like, it's just, I don't think they went in there with a clear mind to let's just have the conversation. But that was my take. It was 2 against 1. That's not fair.
He didn't need to talk. Didn't need to talk.
And they already talked.
Was he trying to make rules?
They had already talked.
Oh.
Not just that, he came in there with like a demanding type attitude, like you're gonna keep giving me money, because he was used to the, pussies we had in office last time who just kept giving him whatever he wanted. And therefore he thought he was gonna walk into this administration and make those same demands. And of course he had to FAFO.
Yeah.
The thing about it is just that if you're familiar, like if you deep dive into what's happening over there in Ukraine and between Russia and Ukraine, number one, for all of y'all liberals and all of y'all Democrats and stuff like that, they don't even fuck with y'all like that. They don't fuck with your culture. They don't rock with you. They don't believe in the same things that you believe in, that the Liberal Party represent. And so, what I see from a lot of people, honestly, is borderline treason. It's borderline, you hate America, you hate Trump, you anti-America, you anti-Trump, and you looking for any reason to side with an op, even if an op is completely different from your culture and they don't even respect things that you respect. If you understood, and again, I always reference this, and I tell people a lot of times, I say, hey man, you need to go and look up the knife fight between the Ukrainian and the Korean.
B, can you hear me?
And it was on the front lines, and it was brutal. And it's on X. You can go and look at it on X. It was one of the most brutal things that I've ever seen in my entire life. And people dying every single day because he want to have an arrogant attitude and you want to argue. Arguing is a privilege. That's something that you can do when you have leverage. That's something that you can do when the world is civilized. That's not something that you can do when your people is on the front line dying every day. Women is over there every day getting great. Every day they getting great. Guys is over there getting snatched up off of the streets because they don't want to fight. And so they hiding out from this administration, the Zelenskyy administration. And then ultimately they're being forced to fight and they don't want to. Win or lose, they're saying, we don't want to do this no more. Their own people are saying that they don't want to do it anymore. And you over here begging for resources and running around the world. Number one, we shouldn't even have been in this in the first place. It's not even something that we should have been funding. Secondly, this is Europe's problem. It's not even our problem. And then third, you want to come over here with a bad attitude and you want to go back and forth? What are we talking about? And again, I see so many people. I see people saying they stand with Canada, they stand with Ukraine, they stand with all of these people that's against the United States of America. Like I said, I think it's borderline treason. And it ain't nothing to talk about. I've never seen, first of all, I'm thankful that we even get a chance to peel back the curtain, because we've never seen an administration be this transparent in history, ever. We've never seen this an administration be this transparent.
Absolutely.
So, I just think that the disrespect calls for them to have to do it on their own. I think we should leave them to their own devices, let them do it, cut off the spigot, don't give them no more money, and let them solve the problem on their own and see how they fly. See how I fare. I think that they'd be grown entitled, just like some of the people that's in the United States of America, they've grown entitled. And that's what you've seen display, and that's what you've seen play out. But thank God we got masculinity into the office and we're not having that shit. I'm with it.
Does anybody disagree? Trey? You quiet, Trey. You quiet.
I'm not privy to all of the Ukraine-Russia backstory. But last I looked, Russia invaded Ukraine. And if they were to continue and they take over Ukraine, then they could encroach upon our NATO allies. And then that would then cost us more money and more lives. So I do believe in preventative maintenance. So I think we did do the right thing to involve ourselves. But I mean, I'm not privy to all of everything going on, behind the scenes.
Well,
you mean the NATO that we pay over 85% into that we don't even need, just because somebody called you? Listen, you know what the United States of America is? The United States of America is the equivalent of a woman putting you in their phone as food.
Wait, one more time? It's the equivalent of what?
Is the equivalent of a woman putting you in her phone as food. That is what the United States of America is. We basically subsidizing the rest of the world when we broke.
Yes,
we broke.
We're broke.
We're broke. We don't have no money for nobody else. But we subsidizing the rest of the world for what? Because they say that they are on our team, they're our ally, and we paying over 85% of what goes into NATO, and we don't get any benefit from it. Tell me what the benefit of us doing the preventative maintenance is. And it's not even our problem, right? Because let's be clear, this ain't just this ain't America's money. This is our money. This is taxpayer money every single day.
There is some taxpayer money.
Help me to understand why it's beneficial for us to spend hundreds, if not trillions of dollars over a period of time, but certainly with the Ukraine situation, hundreds of billions of dollars to make sure that they over there and they can do whatever it is that they want to do. To a guy that was an actor. Let's be clear. Zelenskyy is not even the person that is not even the person that is not even the person that he presents himself to be. But
we can say anything about Trump.
For the sake of conversation, what does it benefit us to send them hundreds of billions of dollars?
To my understanding is, firstly, we didn't spend trillions of dollars. And
so over a period of time, we send trillions of dollars overseas in foreign aid and making sure that we take care of other countries. We absolutely, over a period of time, make sure that we subsidize other countries by sending them aid. 100%.
If you could put a source in to confirm trillions of dollars, I would love to see it. But to my understanding, it's nowhere near trillions.
Please don't deviate from the point.
Oh no, I'm not deviating.
You keep bringing up different stuff that ain't relevant to the conversation. What does it benefit us to send them hundreds of billions of dollars?
Anton, you can't throw out something and then when I clear up saying what you said was false.
You're more than welcome to come back and add the additional context.
I can't do it when you keep interrupting.
Usually when somebody answers you a question, you say yes and, or here's the additional context. You're not answering the question.
I can't
what is it? And you can answer it as whatever you can say whatever you want to say. What does it benefit us to send hundreds of billions of dollars over to Ukraine?
To my understanding, it benefits us to put a battery in Ukraine's back, which then will prevent us from having to put boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground for what? Why would we put boots on the ground in Ukraine?
If Russia takes over Ukraine, they will infringe upon our NATO allies. And if they do that,
we would have to put boots on the ground. You're saying
If they
that
touch
we would have
NATO,
to put
yes.
boots on the ground.
If Russia touches NATO, yes, we would have to put boots on the ground.
Why would we have to put boots on the ground?
What would be the point of NATO if we didn't put boots on the ground? If
We're
they
pulling
touch
out
the
of
ground?
NATO. What are you talking about?
We're pulling
We're
out.
pulling out of NATO.
Yes.
Well, are we out of NATO now?
We should be.
That's not what I asked you.
No, we not.
Okay. So,
But Trump has only been in wait. But Trump has only
now
been
you're
in
moving the
office.
goalposts because
Trump
I
has
gave
only
you an
been in
answer
the
you didn't
office
like.
for 40 days. 40 days.
Okay.
Let's be clear. This is new administration. We're barely a month out from January 20th in the inauguration.
Uh-huh.
So please, let's not put that responsibility on this president that just came in.
Didn't do that. You're doing that. But this is the thing. What you just asked was, what's the point of preventive maintenance with something like this?
No, I said, what's the point of us sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine?
Right. To which I'm saying is, if we did not, and Russia just wiped through Ukraine, and then they were to infringe upon our NATO allies, then we have to respond with American lives.
Why isn't the rest of the world sending them money and taking care of them?
They are
and being the number one benefactor. Because again, I look at this as I'm sending you money, and I'm taking you out, and I'm taking you to Benihana's and fucking J. Alexander's and Ocean Prime, and then you going home and you bringing the doggy bag to the nigga that's really fucking you. That's the way I look at it.
I think that's fair for you to look at it like that. I think it's an incorrect way to look at it, but I guess
how would you look at it?
I look at it.
If you let's break it down, because I'm a C student.
I'm a D student.
I'm not the sharpest knife in the tool shed. So if you was to break it down and use it as like a metaphor or an equivalent to what real life is for us,
I think
I broke it down to being a dude that's paying for a chick's food and don't get no pussy at the end of the night. You break it down like what?
I think it would be the equivalent of seeing your check engine light on and thinking like, well, I could spend some money to get my car fixed now, or I can wait to see what happens. And if you wait to see, if you wait to see what happens, then you could end up having total engine failure, and it'll cost you a lot more money versus if you just went and got your check engine light looked at initially. That's how I would.
But again, the car is supposed to get me to and from and help me to make more money and go to work and all of this other type of stuff. So
if it's in good shape, correct.
Wait. I'm trying to figure out what the equivalent is because the car is supposed to be beneficial. Now, my interpretation of it is you got a lemon, all right? And you're paying high interest rates on this lemon that we finance, and we finance it for 72 months. And we still owe a lot of money to it because we are part of this organization that we're not benefiting from. And we continuing to fight this proxy war, and we paying somebody else's car note.
Yeah, it's fine for you to put your interpretation on it, but it's not a lemon. It is your car.
Ukraine not a lemon?
No, Ukraine's not a lemon. No. In your opinion, you may say that, but
how does Ukraine benefit us? I'm still trying to understand it.
Okay, but that's not what you were asking. You asked for an analogy, and I gave you.
I did. We're sending. Listen, if I send somebody some money, I'm looking to get something back out of it. I'm trying to figure out, because see, don't just tell me.
I completely agree.
No, because there's a difference between we using each other, which means that it's beneficial for you and it's beneficial for me, but we both get something out of it. But don't just tell me I'm an ally just so you can take my money, because that's called being misused. It's a difference between being used and being misused. And so what I'm trying to understand is, what is the reciprocation? What do we benefit? Not how do I keep you from how do I keep you safe? I'm trying to figure out, because usually if I give you provision and protection, you got to bust it down for a real one at the end of the night.
Okay, got it. Wait, let me ask you this, and you tell me what you think here.
Right, Jess? No?
Hands on.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm trying to bring it down to a way in which I can relate.
I get you, but here, think about it like this, and I don't know if this is how it went down, but you tell me what you think here. If Biden was approached by his cabinet members and they say, "Hey, Mr. President, if we send a large portion of our expired munitions, old tanks, stuff that we're going to have to pay to blow up anyway, if we send all this old stuff that really isn't of any value to Ukraine, it it is projected that it could save us from having to put American boots on the ground. Would that be something we should do?
No, what I think, absolutely not. Now, what I think really is the equivalent, what really happens, and this is just my theory because neither one of us can prove it.
Right.
I think what really happens is that we're a part of the military industrial complex.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people on the liberal side that benefited from us going to war financially, and that it had nothing to do with us actually helping Ukraine. It's a proxy war, but it's also justification for how we can continue to enrich other people that we don't even know exist. Honestly.
I don't disagree.
I think that we got finessed, and this don't benefit us whatsoever. And I think that Trump is smart enough to understand that we need peace because there's no reason for us to continue to send money for a war, a never-ending war. We don't want to just be in war perpetually for the rest of our lives.
Would you acknowledge that it's a possibility that if we did not step up, Russia could have wiped through Ukraine, and they could have continued to wipe through other countries, which would have then cost American lives?
No.
You don't think if Russia touched a NATO country, what do you think we would have done?
Well, it depends on who was in office. If first of all, no, because you're doing a lot of what ifs. One of the things that Trump said, and one of the reasons why J.D. Vance emphasizes this a lot of times is he speaks about diplomacy, and diplomacy is, and it's funny because the liberal media always tries to make Russia to be our enemy. And J.D. Vance correctly says that Russia is not our enemy, Russia is our adversary, meaning that we don't have to be aligned and have the same goals, but it doesn't mean that we have to be enemies. You understand what I'm saying? And what I've seen during the Biden administration is no diplomacy whatsoever, not even a conversation with Russia to end the war or to better understand how we can prevent it in the first place. And one of the things that I truly believe in Trump, because we've seen it in his first administration, is that we didn't have any new wars. So when you use your analogy and say, well, boots on the ground, that wasn't a possibility until Biden got in office in the first place. So if you want to talk about preventative maintenance or you want to talk about being proactive, then you'd have to acknowledge the fact that we had no new wars during Trump's administration. Yeah. And that didn't happen until Biden came into office, which I believe they incentivized it to happen and they wanted it to happen.
But that's sort of like revisionist history. That's all sort of irrelevant, saying like, what if this?
It's not, because if you're using the analogies and saying, well, what if?
No, let's talk about what happened.
The point that I'm proving is that the what ifs can be, if you want to say what if, and if you want to keep talking about being proactive, then you got to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is, we've been or Ukraine has been beefing with Russia since Obama was in office. That's the facts. No war had taken place during Trump's first term in office, and it wasn't until we had a vegetable in office that's probably being manipulated, and we don't know who was controlling him in the first place, is that we then seen Russia then invade Ukraine, in which we probably could have prevented that, because it is great to have great relationships, even if they just your adversary and not necessarily your enemy. I think it's a plus that Trump has a relationship and can pick up the phone and actually call Putin, because don't nobody want to be in a forever war for no reason. That is the real way to prevent American troops from being on the ground. And it's a real way for us to prevent us continuing to send money and resources over to Ukraine.
But what would have been the way to prevent American boots on the ground when Biden was in office?
Having Trump in office.
Okay, but now you just did the what if. Now you just did the what if, which was obviously.
No, you asked me a question.
Right, but you what if the question.
No, I didn't.
No, you did. Yes,
you said what would have been a way to prevent them from having boots on the ground and having Trump in office?
So you said what if? So basically saying what if Trump was in office. Okay.
So Trey, have you ever heard of the Warsaw Pact?
No, or heard of it, but I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so the Warsaw Pact was between George Bush Sr. and Gorbachev, and they had their own agreement in regards of U.S. being part of NATO and endorsing or soliciting other countries close to Russia. So if you read that and understood that, you probably would understand why certain things are happening, why Russia is doing certain things that caused them to invade Ukraine. But I don't understand why people don't look into those things. They more know about Kamala and her 6 months of running for president, but they don't know nothing about
Yeah.
Other American history. I just don't understand
You're
it.
absolutely right, Ashton. People don't want to go back
yield.
to the
I
beginning.
got one more question. One
Yeah.
more question, and I yield.
Yeah.
And this is for Trey, because I know that he's a really smart guy. What's the benefits of us being in NATO?
The benefit, I presume, just for us to band against the other countries that could potentially
These people
fire
don't
on us, and
know
we need
anything
to have
about
allies,
NATO.
especially in the Middle East. Especially, yeah, I think that's one of the
So
reasons.
you don't think that the real benefit is one-sided from our quote-unquote allies, and it's not necessarily beneficial to the United States of America?
I think it's mutually beneficial. I think we have interest in a lot of different countries, and I think we have a lot of enemies in a lot of different countries. And I think that logistically, it makes sense for us to have allies in Europe, especially if things pop off. I think it just makes sense.
So
I respectfully disagree, but I accept your answer.
Fair. I get it.
So what about the German? What about the German and the French and the English? They don't have an army to help out Ukraine?
To my understanding, they do.
So
it's a European.
Why is that not exactly? It's a European issue. So why is the States or North America getting involved in it?
Because we have allies and we back up our.
Hey,
allies.
I'm a veteran, and I'm telling you, the only position that we got over there is sitting in Poland right now. Nobody's trying to go over there and fight.
The only what is in Poland?
The main position that the U.S. is sitting in as far as the allied situation and proximity is in Poland. Like, yeah, of course they got some other assets or whatever, but this is a European problem. And when you mentioned the Warsaw Pact, which was really good to bring up, Ashton, really, if you got to go history, Russia's just really responding to having their land taken, because all of that NATO land, those countries used to belong to the USSR. So like during the Gorbachev and the tumbling of the East Berlin Wall and all of that stuff, that's what Russia's looking at. So imagine your land gets taken, just like the Native Americans, just like the Palestinians, just like any other person out there or any other ethnic group or country that has seen their land taken. That's how Russia's responding to this thing. That's why they invaded Crimea and they took over the active ports where they transport oil and stuff, because it's a logistics issue. It's money, it's tolls, it's ports, and they're trying to reset their economic footprint. And the other part is that's why they keep bringing up to them that you're not going to get the land back that you lost before 2014 when Crimea got invaded. Zelenskyy is not in a position to borrow weapons, arms, and military lethal aid to fight Russia to get his land back. So it's a lost cause. They've lost a long time ago strategically. And NATO is not NATO is for those countries that can't fight for themselves. It's not for us.
So to add to what Ashton said, the Warsaw Pact did advocate for Ukraine to join NATO. Like basically the United States accepted the fact that Ukraine wanted to join NATO, but that isn't even when Ukraine joined NATO. Ukraine has been with NATO for like less than 5 years. Additionally, they only wanted to join NATO. They only wanted to join NATO to save their ass because they had no other allies to help them. And
I think they're a peace partner. I don't even think they're fully part of NATO. I think they're like a peace partner.
They're not even there yet?
No, see, that's what I'm saying.
No, they're not. No, they're not fully part of NATO.
22, 23, but see, goes to show how much I know. But anyway, they were never a part of NATO, and their entire push for them to become a part of NATO is because they had no allies. At the end of the day, during the time of the USSR, there were a lot of Russians who lived in that area. And as we've seen historically, of course, when people occupy a land and they feel like this is their land, they're going to do whatever they can to take that land. And after they took the peninsula, in which the peninsula was voted on, and they all agreed to become a part of Russia, and they all agreed that they wanted to go ahead and occupy this land, take it and claim it as their own. Then Ukraine realized they didn't have anybody to help them, fight with them, for them, any of those things. So they've been doing this push to join NATO, not because they are our allies, because they have no other allies. And then somehow Zelenskyy back in 2014, got in bed with Hunter Biden and figured out a way to get all of this money outside of them being in NATO. And so now, for whatever reason, I guess he thought he was going to come back and bully Trump to do the same. Russia, honestly, is not necessarily the aggressor here, because Russia has been telling y'all since the 90s that these guys are not who they tell you that they are. There have been letters sent back and forth between presidents for the last 20 years in regards to what this conflict is now. This is not new. This is not anything that those people don't understand. Additionally, as somebody mentioned earlier, this is a European problem. There is a European Union, and therefore it should be on Europe to solve Europe's problems. We do fund 85% of NATO, and I hate to be the ones to tell y'all, but when we go to war, i.e. back in 2001 when we declared, a war on terror, nobody came to help us. Nobody sent their troops to the United States to ensure that terrorists weren't invading our country. Nobody came to us and sent us beans and rice and billions of dollars so that we could do what we need to do. No other country, even the countries in NATO, weren't sending us weapons, troops, or aid in order to fight our wars. Yet for whatever reason, here we are arguing for the United States to remain in NATO and fight everybody else's war. And yes, as somebody else mentioned earlier, it will only result in loss of life for American citizens if we keep getting involved in everybody else's issues, especially when everybody else isn't involved in our issues. As we saw in the great debate earlier about racism, you don't see any other country sending white people over to defend Black people. Therefore, there's really no reason for us to be doing all of these things worried about people overseas when literally our people here are suffering like crazy. That is something that they have been doing since the 90s. This is something that is in their house. And as all of us, we a whole bunch of, that ain't got nothing to do with me. At the end of the day, a Ukrainian ain't never did nothing to me. A Russian ain't never did nothing to me. So whatever dispute they have between each other has nothing to do with any of us. So Zelenskyy coming over here thinking that he's going to bully the current administration the same way he did the last administration into giving him all this money for a war that honestly seems like a proxy, considering that in the midst of it all, when all the bombings were happening and everything was so bad, their president was on the cover of Vogue. And in the midst of things when they needed so much aid and they needed all of these things, he was buying his wife all these expensive gifts, a Cartier bracelet that cost over $1 million. He bought her a McLaren that cost nearly $1 million. That's our tax dollars paying for the luxury lifestyle of a president who's posing that his country is in so much need. And yet the Russians have been telling us for forever that these guys don't need anything but to mind their own business.
Michaela, do you support Trump wanting to buy Palestine?
Again, since the end of time, people who occupy a land feel like they have, jurisdiction over said land, and they will fight for ownership of said land. So I don't think Trump ever said he was going to buy Palestine. He was simply going to buy the Gaza Strip, which is completely different. And he didn't say he was going to buy it. He just said that we were going to manage it, oversee it, and that we were going to be the ones to help fund the reconstruction of it. And I mean, considering, even though there are jokes that are coming out, considering the redevelopment plans that he has for it, for all we know, whatever they're going to write out or whatever plan they have for the Gaza Strip could actually benefit Americans, because I highly doubt we're going to build over there and not receive any percentages of the profits from whatever it is that we do develop.
Okay, so to be clear, you just, well, hold on, Victor. I'm just to be clear about Michaela's position. So you say we should be isolationist, but it's okay to spend money when Trump says it is for the Gaza Strip.
I never said that we should be isolationist. Nothing about us helping redevelop a country that's already war-torn and has been war-torn for years is us getting involved in the actual war. We're not sending troops over there to fight to keep them out of Gaza. We're literally sending developers and builders over there to help rebuild Gaza.
So you're fine with tax dollars.
Hold on. Again, that's an American investment. That's not necessarily us giving aid.
Well, an American investment would be like we would be looking for like a return on that investment. So you would be fine with spending tax dollars on that, but not elsewhere.
If the money generated from whatever it is that we build over there actually genuinely helps Americans, which, I mean, again, we haven't seen the plans for it. We can only make assumptions as to what they're planning on doing over there. But yes, we have investments everywhere. We have investments in Africa. We have investments in China. We have investments in Australia. We have investments in Russia. We have investments literally everywhere. So if you can be okay with us investing all of this money the past 4 years in Ukraine, and we can invest all of our time and resources and weapons into helping them with their personal dispute with another country, then why in the world could we not invest in something that's going to give us a return, like we have done in multiple other countries since we became a country? Like,
you cooking.
We literally have investments everywhere. So I think that's a pretty redundant question to believe that we should only invest in America. Like, there's innovation everywhere. There's resources that aren't available in America that are available in other places. So we're going to have foreign investment. That's literally what helps make us a capitalist society.
No, I agree. I just would have thought that by the way you're speaking, sort of like, hey, we should mind our own business in other countries, I would think that you would have said the same thing about
If it's
that.
not returning a profit and not benefiting Americans, then yes,
You should.
with us. But if we're building, innovating, and investing something that's going to give us a return that will in turn help the American people, that will help with whatever engineering and development we have going on over here, then absolutely we have every right to go ahead and work with other countries to create a better world. But why should we be worried about other countries who are destroying their world? That's what I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I mean, when you got to get return on investment. Like, how long are you going to keep putting money out and not getting a return on your investment? You know, like, it has to have some sort of leverage. You know, at least in the Gaza Strip and Israel, which is already obviously partnered, you know, with Western ideology. There's a chance at building a bypass canal. You know what I'm saying? That's going to direct and orient trade in that region at some point. There's been plenty of plans and discussions about that. The strategic territory that Ukraine is more valuable to Europe than it is the United States, because the Soviet Union has all of the gas and oil pipelines that pipe right into Europe. So it's really Europe's investment is in their best interest to get involved in what's going on over there. Because like I said, Russia took over the Crimea and all of its water ports and stuff back in 2014. Now they're going to have free access, and they just discovered a large gas deposit in that same area too. So Ukraine's out on its own, and you have to really like look at it. It's like, can you go help them win? And what does winning look like? And how long does it take to get it back? You got Ukraine's offering not emerald mines, but I think mineral mines to some degree, of mineral rights. But Russia's offering that too. So what does Ukraine have to offer that Russia can't offer in a strategic partnership? What's the benefit? Bottom line is, and how much is it going to cost to get the benefit out of it?
Do you think
with regard to the mineral rights, that's a very, very,
it's
very
a long play.
Man, it's a long-term investment. We don't get anything from it in the immediate near-term future at all whatsoever. So that's almost like a consolation prize.
Yep. It's like a student loan.
I don't want to do any more comparisons, but that's like a consolation prize because they don't have anything else to offer us. And I'm not sure that if we had another Democrat in office and as a president of the United States of America, that we would even be getting anything whatsoever.
You know, I hear a lot of people, they complain about the education system, and you know, for $350 billion, even if you took 40% of that and put it back into the education system, would go a long way. It's money better spent. So
my biggest thing is we broke here. We broke here in the United States of America.
It doesn't seem like it.
And between $1 and $2 trillion in interest every year on the money on the deficit, on the money that's in the deficit. So,
Anton, if we didn't spend a dime in Ukraine, how different do you think our day-to-day lives would be?
I don't think it's just Ukraine. I just think it's a mindset that we are spending money that we don't have in general.
I agree.
That's like a woman saying, listen, I'm already in debt. I might as well just keep on shopping. Like, that don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds logical to the woman, but to the guy that's married to her, that don't make sense. What do you mean? I can think of a million different things that we could have used the money more effectively for. And more importantly, it's our money. It's taxpayer money.
No, but I'm asking how,
We just
something
winging it.
tangible. What do you think we would see different in our day-to-day life if we didn't spend a dime in Ukraine?
Do you think they would have poured it back into our community?
Yes, but that's one of the reasons why we're doing an audit and why you have the Department of Government Efficiency to find out exactly where all of our money is going. Because I think that when you start to break it down, you could say, well, it's just Ukraine. But I think that when you see $1 billion here, $1 billionaire, $4 billionaire, $27 million a month, and that you're spending on buildings in this particular city that's not even 15% occupied. It all adds up. It all adds up. And at the end of it in 2026 on July 4th, we'll see exactly where all of the money is and how much we're saving. Because I think that you have a whole lot of situations that's similar to Ukraine. May not be as visible as far as us going to war or anything, but I think that we are wasting money and we wasting taxpayer money on a lot of different things. And that's what we're going to figure out when we get down to this government audit. So, listen, I make a lot of money. But if you steal $1,000 from me, that's my $1,000. It may not change my life at all. It may not even affect me. If I didn't even find out that you stole it, I might not even have noticed that it was gone. But it's mine, and I want it back with interest.
Exactly.
It's my money. You're not gonna take my money, bro.
And what are we arguing? And what are we arguing for by saying, hey, we shouldn't pull back our taxpayer dollars from supporting Ukraine? So what are we actually supporting it?
What do you mean? What are we supporting?
Okay, so you asked what would change in your everyday life if
I'm curious. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Okay, so I think we kind of talked about that because we're still talking about what if scenarios and hypotheticals, right? What does it look like if we continue our taxpayer dollar support to Ukraine, in your opinion? Like, what do you think it goes?
I'm sort of belief if we didn't spend a dime in Ukraine, our day-to-day life would be the same as it is today. If we doubled our spending in Ukraine over the next 2 years, I think everything still looks the same.
So therefore, there's a net negative then, right? So that means we just need to take our money back if nothing changes.
So
potentially, but the
problem with Trey's argument, or the problem with what Trey is saying, I'm not even going to say argument. The problem with what Trey is saying is that he's not justifying spending money over there. He's justifying it by saying that we our day-to-day lives are not going to be affected by it.
Right. I don't think that the negative ramification of us spending money over there is egg prices.
No. You're still spending it. Why should we give anybody anything extra, regardless of whether or not it's going to affect me?
Again, I'm of a belief that if we did not help in Ukraine, then it could have resulted in American lives.
And everybody that you pass by on the street that asks you for money, homeless, whatever, do you give it to them?
Sometimes, depending.
I said everybody.
Oh, do everybody? No, I do not.
Why not? It's not going to affect your day-to-day life.
If I could selectively know if I could give somebody money and it would prevent them from robbing somebody and hurting them, I would.
No. But
that's what it's like giving money to Ukraine.
But it's not affecting your day-to-day life. You may not be able to go and get McDonald's today, but it's not going to affect your day-to-day life, though.
If I gave money to everybody, it would affect my day-to-day life.
Everybody that asks you.
Right. That would affect my day-to-day life.
How many people ask you a day?
Enough that it would affect my day-to-day life.
You get that many people asking you for money every day.
Where you be at?
I'm in California. Yes, it would affect my
day-to-day life.
There you go. There it is right there.
Yes, it would affect my day-to-day
life. Shout out to you.
Yeah.
You're in California. Yeah, that's a shithole.
Yeah. Whoa. We're a top 5 economy in the world, buddy.
Yeah, but you operating at a federal at a debt. No. You operating at a deficit. Your state is operating at a deficit.
India's number 5, but
no. Stop. You're operating at a deficit. Gavin Newsom is operating literally your state budget. You're under duress. You're operating at a deficit.
Yeah, probably.
Go and look it up.
No,
you ain't got it. You don't even have to guess. You could just go and look it up yourself.
No, I will. Let me see.
California is operating just like America in terms of foreign policy, at a deficit, trying to, and still got people outside homeless, and still spending money that they don't have, and trying to raise the cost of living on the people that actually pay taxes. And that's why you have all these nuanced fees, and that's why it was a huge migration of people moving out of California and coming to Texas, where I live.
It's so funny. It's so funny when people say to me stuff like, "Oh, we're a top 5 economy," or this and that. No, listen, That just means what you gross. When people come to me with coaching calls, a lot of times they say, Anton, I made $1 million last year. I say, oh yeah. I said, that's what you gross, right? They say, yeah. I said, how much you keep? Well,
$2.
We're underwater. Really, I was only able to keep $40,000. I mean, your expenses is out of control. And so you may generate a lot of revenue because you guys have the highest taxes in the United States of America besides New York City. But it doesn't mean that it's conducive for the people that live there, and the environment and affordability is absolute trash. And you're operating at a deficit, which means that you got to start cutting services to other things, or you have to raise taxes even more.
Is
So
there
you
any
can
state
use
that
that
doesn't
narrative
operate
and
in
say
a
that
deficit?
I'm sorry?
Is there any state that doesn't operate in a deficit?
Yeah, the state of Washington. They got a 19.
No.
They got a
Hold on.
19.
Don't even answer that question. Because Trey, I noticed something now about you. Instead of staying on subject, you like to move the goalposts to try to justify why California is operating at a deficit and it shouldn't be.
No, I think it's a moot point if every other state operates at a deficit as well.
No. Well, every other state doesn't operate at a deficit.
And which
so
one
doesn't? Throw that argument out the window.
Well, then which one doesn't?
You tried to justify your argument by saying
which one doesn't?
you tried to justify your argument by saying that California was a top five revenue generator in the world. And it made no sense because y'all losing money.
To my quick Google, Vermont's the only state that doesn't operate at a deficit.
Listen. You're still trying to move the goalposts.
I'm not moving the goalposts.
You're
I'm just
losing money. You're
if
losing
every
money.
State operates at a deficit.
You're still trying to change the subject, aren't you?
I'm not changing the subject. I'm addressing
you
your
are.
point.
You're defending something that we never asked that you brought up. You brought up that California, and we didn't even have to go down this path. All you had to say is everybody is homeless in California. That's why they keep asking me for money. That's the whole reason why we got on this subject in the first place. I said, how many people ask you for money every day? You said, I live in California. I mean, everybody fucking poor. Y'all got the highest homeless population in the entire country. You're operating at a deficit. Your governor is a piece of shit.
Okay.
The Oakland, California is one step away from filing for bankruptcy itself. They even shut down their airport. They're about to shut down their airport, and they shut down all of the hotels that surround it. Come on, man. Like, stop. Like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to go down this path.
You brought up the deficit, right?
Because you said that you lived in California and all of these homeless people.
Correct.
And you said that you were a top 5 economy, and that's why I brought up the deficit.
Okay. Correct. But does that change anything if every other state is operating in a deficit as well?
No, every other state is not operating in a deficit.
Okay. To my quick Google, it says just Vermont. But
what exactly? What source did Google cite when they gave you that information?
I'd have to look. It was a quick Google. I think it's from Pew.
Okay. Q, we can move on.
We're going to move on from the politic talk, y'all. But let's get to the super chats real quickly. Oh, shoot. I messed up. When do we stop being Black and start being Americans? Jazz is in the house. Get Miss Michaela and clear your mind day schedule. We need to hear you every week. She about to rage quit. Jazz, your mic is trash, like your takes. Shout out to Ryan, boss. That was a hell of an icebreaker. Yes, Jerry. Better be glad I'm not a Trump protection detail. Zelenskyy would have been thrown through the window onto the front lawn. Zelenskyy was talking 40 minutes before this. Ashton laughed her ass off over the Jazz needs wood comment. FYI, I did too. Jazz, you should research Thomas Sowell. You need it. Jazz, keep it up and stand on the truth. Stay Black and be beautiful. Ready for Stock Club Wednesday, bag chasers versus everybody. Ignore the haters, Jazz. You talk your truth. 62% of Americans side with Ukraine, not a Democrat or Republican thing. Ukraine's militia is literally an Aryan and Nazi militia. Leave Jazz alone, grr. You didn't watch the whole thing. Zelenskyy talked a lot until he got disrespectful with JD. Yes, they're literally forcible holding back mothers and snatching up their sons, making them fight. USA Today says Trump plus all of the aid to Ukraine. An article as of 37 minutes ago. Zelenskyy isn't a good leader. The Ukrainian men are trying to escape to Romania to avoid the war, but the Ukrainian government won't let them. When I saw Zelenskyy meet with the Prime Minister of UK right after Trump and then said they didn't give him enough money, I was like, wow, we're broke. I'm done with Ukraine, aka the Nazis. I'm just going to listen now. Fired up. Michelin star to Chef Michaela cooking with fish grease. I'm about to go grab some codfish right now while the grease sizzling. Keep cooking, queen. Ukraine being occupied by Russia doesn't impact the USA at all. Ukraine is our ally. They're selling our weapons to cartels. They're corrupt. I'm not siding with Putin, but I can see his concern. Go look at Russia's western border and the number of NATO countries next to it. America's scared Russia and China military will grow. Peace, no Vietnam. It says U.S. is give $17 billion in aid to Ukraine in 2023. $262 million was military and the rest was economic aid. We love you, Michaela. Come back. Trey, you can take your zesty self and enlist in the Ukraine army to fight for them since you care so much. Trade the Black Lives Matter sweater for an M4. Q and everyone having questions and everyone having an opinion. Did you watch the entire 50 minutes press briefing? Please, so many people speak on vital topics. Based off the 30-second clip that is taken out of context, please be informed, fully, combo, respectful. Yeah, I didn't know it was 50 minutes. Sorry, y'all. Not trying to make it about race, but YouTube Ukrainians refuse to allow Black migrant on train to evacuate their country in rank 9th most corrupted. Trey, the U.S. has paid $21.9 trillion to NATO's budget over 75 years. Also, how is Russia losing to Ukraine, but also a threat to NATO? Ignorant. Trey, there's no single person in the chat that doubted you was a D student. Just speaking that ish. Anton, you are right. We have depleted military reserves that we will have to pay private contracting to replace. Easy payout to the friends with a down the road kickback. $6.4 billion to Ukraine so far in 2024. Jazz kind of has a point. And neuroscientists did a study on the Holocaust and found an epidemic PTSD linked to their descendants that lives now. Russia don't want the whole Ukraine. They wanted the eastern border. That's where they stopped at, and Ukraine that feels some way, so they keep fighting. Trey voided and looks up to Kamala. He's soft and sassy, speaking no fact at all. Pro-blacks care so much about these whites in Ukraine. Ukraine worse than BLM. They got all the money and can't account for it. People only siding with Ukraine because they don't like Trump. The Budapest Memorandum in the 90s was the catalyst for all this. Russia invaded Crimea in 2014 under Obama watch. He invaded under Biden. Corruption to Ukraine prevented them from joining NATO. Jazz looks fine. What motivates us to back a nation that isn't even part of NATO? What about Russia wanting to join NATO and Clinton and Obama stopped it? Ukraine didn't even want to be part of NATO until they got into it with Russia. They aren't a U.S. ally, and we're not getting into a nuclear war for them. Oh, snap. Michelin's on. Black female superstar alert. Ukraine is the buffer between NATO, Poland, and Russia. We will not put boots on the ground, but Putin has been serious about U.S. military assets in Ukraine. Any U.S. products in Ukraine is World War III. Israel sent our munitions to Ukraine. We are restocking Israel. This is the first in our situation. 2014 started this war, and the President Eisenhower warned of the exact same thing. I got 500 in Michaela versus any Dem in Congress. Victor is all wrong. Ukraine was a republic of the old USSR, and after it collapsed in the 90s, it became its own sovereign country, along with other Republicans. Ukrainians and Russians hate each other. It's like tribes at war. Jazz wanted to teach us all history. What does she think about Ukraine? Or does she only know about teaching fake racism and victimhood in the USA? USA's welfare system worldwide. Some of these NATO countries have not updated their military, men/women, because we fly to the rescue. Okay. Shout out to Quentin. There are some pretty good 20th century examples as to how land wars in Europe left unchecked eventually became the US problem. Far better for us to be spending billions to help someone fight for us than trillions while doing the actual fighting. Why am I just realizing Michaela is a Chick-fil-A lady? She on here serving fries and dropping nuggets right now. Great gems. Anton, Uncle Sugar has been spending money and busting countries down for years. Trey want to start World War III so he can hide in the closet. The entire panel should be banned from discussing international relations. The U.S. installed Petro Poroshenko as president in 2014, so Russia annexed Crimea to counter NATO via U.S. support. I'm digging Miss Montgomery. Holla at me. Just for the smile, baby girl. Government spending causes inflation. Trey, this spending mentality is why the Biden can only afford to give disaster survivors a one-time payment of $700. Cap, I live in LA. It's a ish hole. Trey. FYI, Biden and Harris are the cause of the war when they tried to expand NATO dominance. It's forced Putin hand. 350 billion is 1,000 per every citizen in the U.S. Trey should have not been on public planet with nothing but a light breeze for a brain. President Trump has secured over $1.5 trillion in investments in less than 3 months into his presidency. This Ukraine crap is a big distraction. Texas, New Jersey, and Connecticut are examples of states not operating at a deficit. And shout out to you, Kyle Makazi, chief to the panel. Shout out to you. Eggs here in California, $13. They doesn't really. Apple equals 500 billion. Japan equals 1 trillion. Taiwan chip maker equals 100 billion. Zelenskyy called your VPAB. A Trey is using 2020 stats for only 9 states in deficit. Q, you're reading these super chats like Ebonics will pee, just like your daddy. Livs get all the info from the 30-second clip. Shout out to everybody. We appreciate y'all. The chatters, the haters, the lovers.